The Ten Commandments are a set of rules, and that's it. I think most people would agree on them. But the way to the Father is through the Son. You cannot walk in a path that you're meant to, such as what Sermon on the Mount talks about, unless you have fallen. I truly believe that. I see so many people, especially politicians, and I see it's happening right now. Whether it's the ones in or it's the ones up and coming. I don't mean all of, but they quickly get into their groups. It's not about the people. It's about their promotion, whoever's advertising for them. And it's like, it's where it all gets lost, I feel like, because and then it's like they somehow are better than others. And it's like, you know what? I don't see myself as better than anybody. I really don't. And if people want, I get emotional about this because I think this is where man gets lost, because they think either they were raised in a better home, so their upbringing was better, which somehow makes them better, or they didn't make as many mistakes, or they know best, or because somebody has a lot of money, it means they're somehow better, or they have better judgment. Look, unless you fall down and you get to a place where you're begging God for mercy, you're not going to know truly what the path is that God wants you to follow. You won't. And I think everybody falls down. It's those that are willing to admit it. I mean, there's nobody that is born here that's perfect. There's also nobody that's born here without a conscience, as this system wants to make people believe that that there are people born here that just have no conscience. I don't believe that. I think it's a system that breaks people away from one, makes that split, and then it makes it hard because people get wounded, and unless they get to that point where they fall down so hard where they're begging God for help, because they realize there is no man that will help. There is no woman that can help. It's only then that I think that God will raise you up, and then all of a sudden you are working for his will. I mean, every day, almost every day. Yes, there's days that I forget, but I'll do it in my car, but I will get on my knees and I'll pray that I do God's will, that God will help me to see what his will is, and then give me the power to do it. Because left to my own devices, forget it. There's God's righteousness, and then there's self-righteousness. And if we're walking in self-righteousness, we're going to be like every politician that's running, everyone that's in office. I'm not trying to judge them. I'm just saying I get more and more why Jesus, when he was alive and walked the earth, that when he was in the temple, he flipped the tables over and he let the animals go free, and that was one of the few times that he got angry, truly angry, because it was like your money and your status and your selling of things, and totally disregarding the everyday person, to the rulers of everything that back then, that was his disdain. I mean, there's a reason that Jesus ate with sinners. He ate with sinners that were not at the 12 disciples had. You could see them as lowlifes. Back then, they were seen as that. That is who Jesus went to. So for all these people that have all their money, and they get in their little groups of, this is an expert and this is perfect, and I came from a good family, so I just know best. Or it's like, screw you. I will sooner trust the sinner that has fallen so bad and is horribly in a dark spot and trying to get out of it than I will trust the person that has all this wealth or has all this status because of some family background or because he or she believes that's what makes them righteous. No. This is why people get disgusted with politics. It's why people turn it off after a while, because it again becomes these groups. So you may start to follow somebody because you think that you can trust them. You can, they look like they're a pretty good person, and maybe they are, okay. But then there's this attitude that starts to come into play, like we're better than they are. Well, no, none of us are better. Okay, I mean, I get that there's a hierarchy and they've trafficked and they've done horrible things, and that needs to be addressed and brought to justice. But does it make me better than them? Really? Just because I've never trafficked anybody? No, I'm a sinner too. And I'm not trying to say we should feel sorry for them, but that's the dangerous trap. Because it's God we need, and you can't get to the Father without going through the Son. And you don't need the Son unless you are asking for mercy. And usually that's when people are at that horrible point in their life where things are so hard that you want to give up. And I know there's many people that never get to that place. But then, and not that they're bad people, but then I don't feel like that they're necessarily the best people to be governing either, because they haven't. Here's my thing: the people that have fallen and know that they've been horrible sinners, that they've needed God's mercy, those are the people I trust more. They are. And if people that haven't had that experience want to think that they're better than me or people like that, then you know what? You need to, I don't know what you need to do, but it's not how it's supposed to be. And I feel like we're going, we're already heading into communism as it is, and then we have these groups of somebody who has big status is going to say who the best people are. You know what? No, I think there's a reason that Jesus didn't get involved in the politics, because he couldn't stand it. He knew how quickly man would fall. And yet, for years, there's this part of me that, I've heard from the news and even your political people, like, that they're somehow better than me. And I believed that for a long time. Like, well, they know best. And I didn't care. I was just like, okay, well, they know. No, they don't. I've come to that realization. No, they don't. That money, that status, that title, that education, that gift they have, whatever it is, no, it doesn't make them better. To divide people into the bad and the good is just, again, doing a division game. And yes, the wicked have to be brought to justice, but we also have to walk as Jesus suggested, I think, in Sermon on the Mount, about love thy enemies. If you're going to walk around with anger, you're going to eventually develop a resentment, and that resentment will be poisonous to you, because it'll make you think you're better than everybody else. It'll make you think that you're somehow, have a higher status. I've yet to see any of these politicians really, any of them, right or left, I don't care, any of them, running or in, have ever really reached out to the everyday average American that lives paycheck to paycheck. No, they get on there and they say this shit, and they have some, big promoter, or they get somebody to back their name that people like, and it's just such a fucking game. It is. It's such a game. It's the same thing. And I try really hard to see it from all angles, and it's like, I see why Jesus didn't go to these people why he didn't go to the people that had all the education or had all the status. He went to the people that those people saw as lowlifes. Because the people that those people saw as lowlifes were the ones that needed the most help. They were the ones that were most open to change, to accepting God's mercy. Not just following the 10 Commandments or walking in their own self-righteousness, but actually realizing, no, I am a sinner, I fail, and as long as I operate on my own motives, I will eventually end up going down the wrong path. And I think it's like that for everyone. It's just a matter of who wants to be honest with themselves. That's the hardest person to be honest with, is ourselves. And it's easier just to look away and not think, and then we don't have to think about how we're just as bad as sinners as others. Maybe not as bad as some, but it doesn't mean that we're not capable. We all have good and evil. You know, people like to put the Dalai Lama on some, like he's some bigwig, and he has good teachings. Buddhism has good teachings, but you know what the problem with Buddhism is? Man, because they don't believe in God. They've enlightened themselves so much that they no longer believe in God. And here's my belief, is that they have gone off into the wilderness to completely separate themselves from society, basically. Where you have to live most of us have to live in the real world, but meditate for years and years and years, and yes, come up with great insights and great teachings. I mean, some of the teachings are very good. However, they've enlightened themselves so much that they say there's no God, or basically that there's, it becomes this self-God. And it's like, God put the medicines in the world like that. The way they discover medicine is because the Creator put it in nature. So the Creator provided it for us. It's just that Big Pharma came along and decided to commercialize it. It's always the same people that get into office. It really is. It's the people that have the promoters. It's the people that have money. It's the people that, and then they prostitute God's name and do it on that, and the heels of that. And yet, then want to say that, they really aren't sinners, or that they haven't fallen down and have needed God's mercy. If I'm a firm believer that if everything in your life is coming easy to you, then you're doing something wrong. You are, because if you're standing up and you're doing the right thing, it's not going to come easy. It's going to come very hard. You're going to find yourself in positions that you don't want to be in. And yet, when you ask God, what do I do? What is your will here? And you follow it, you will find yourself persecuted for it, and then having to start over again. And so I just don't believe that if it comes easy, you're doing something wrong. Because the easier route is to look away. The easier route is to do nothing. The easier route is to pretend like we don't see the horrors in the world. But then when the horrors come to light, we can say, oh, we're better than these people. Are we really? Could we not have all fallen into the trap of ignoring the wicked that has been around us? Because we don't know how to fix it. We don't know what to do. And if we speak up, nobody listens. And yet then still we have now the next roll of politicians rolling out and are running, and that it's like it's the same song and dance. It really is. I think it's why Jesus truly stayed away from people in politics, people in the church, because he knew the people that would be most open were the ones that were most broken.